My name is Michael Leonard. I'm Chief of the International Tax Cooperation Unit in the Financing for Sustainable Development Office of UN DESA, also Secretary of the Tax Committee. Prior to that, I worked in the OECD on tax treaty issues, and prior to that, I was a treaty negotiator in the Australian Taxation Office. The work of the UN Tax Committee has quite a long history. The first work on model bilateral tax treaties really began in the League of Nations. Then the work moved to the OECD, predecessor organization. In 1968, a recognition that there should be some special attention to tax treaty issues for developing countries led to an ad hoc group of experts working on that issue. It was later changed to give it a wider ambit beyond just tax treaties. In 2005, the UN ad hoc group of experts was upgraded to becoming a committee with experts nominated by countries and then selected by the Secretary General. It's a 25-member body, and those people act in their personal capacity as tax experts with a view to enhancing international tax cooperation. The UN model is essentially a model for bilateral treaties between countries. And the problem it's trying to solve is essentially that countries can legitimately tax profits made in their country, sourced in their country, but also they can tax based on the profits made by their residents. So obviously where you have international business, you have the risk of double taxation, where taxation is levied by one country on the basis of residency, one country on the basis of source. The model doesn't give you a taxing right. You need that in domestic law to be implemented, but the model can preserve or prevent you from exerting that in the treaty relationship. One of the beauties of, I think, of the UN model is often the commentaries have the arguments for a provision, but maybe the arguments against such provision, and then countries can make their own decisions. One of the things that we're very pleased to see is that the Tax Committee is increasingly linking its work to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And in essence, what the UN model is trying to do is mobilize domestic resources by allowing for a treaty situation that achieves the right result, where income relates to a country, that country, particularly a source country, can tax that income, but also it balances the fact that there are other aspects of achieving the SDGs, and that includes the investment environment, ensuring that there's productive investment which can give jobs and can lead to health outcomes, better education, and so forth. So it's very much balancing the need for revenue to government and the need for a good investment climate by minimizing double taxation. A final aspect is that it tries to achieve a balance in terms of encouraging withholding taxes that ensure that the productive investment occurs, but that there is some return to the state for the investment that is occurring. Investment is important for sustainable development, but revenue to governments is important for sustainable development. How do we achieve a balance between residence and source country taxation that best achieves that? And recognizing the reality that for developing countries, source taxation has been extremely important. For more developed countries, residence-based taxation as capital exporters has been more important. It also increasingly in recent years has avoided double non-taxation. First of all, there's Article 12B on the taxation of automated digital services, a recognition that the rules for taxation in a lot of treaties tied to physical presence are outdated. There's provisions on collective investment vehicles and pension funds, which even for developing countries, the treatment of them is becoming more and more important. There are also provisions on something where the UN took some leadership in its extractives handbook on taxation of the extractive industries, and that's offshore indirect transfers. The ways of business are always evolving, and this is why we have such an issue at the moment of the taxation of digital and globalized businesses. So the work is never finished because the environment is constantly changing and the need for guidance is constant. Some of the issues that the committee is considering, I can't preempt, but is considering for further guidance in the next version of the UN model, payments for computer software as royalties or as not. It's a very important issue in the increasingly digitalized world. Another is subject to tax rules. The modern purpose of double tax treaties, not just to avoid double taxation, but to avoid double non-taxation. Another one is having a special extractives provisions. There's also work on the treatment of international shipping and on cross-border insurance. We can't be sure whether there will be changes, but there'll certainly be discussion.